What is a haunted house? What is a haunt? What is a scare zone? And what is a scare actor? These are questions that I have had for a long time. Living in Australia, we don't even celebrate Halloween here. So I thought I would take the time today to talk to two professional scare actors and get their take on the situation. And this is what I found out.
Shut up and sit down.
I am a complete noob at this whole, what do you even call them? Horror houses? Hell houses? I've only seen this through horror movies, really.
So what you call horror houses, it has different names in the States. Most people will just say haunted attractions or haunts in general. Some people will say haunted houses. But an attraction or a haunted attraction is something that is a bigger scope. You're going to have different mazes or houses. You will have also what's called scare zones. A scare zone is a completely open path area where different scare actors are going to be hidden inside. Now, a horror house or just a house in general in a haunt, that is going to be something that is themed with a particular story. And it could be an intellectual property or it could be an original property. And an intellectual property means that the event has got a licensed character. An original property is something that the event itself has come up with.
So how did you get into it, and did you always want to become like a scare actor?
I've done acting before, and I've done radio. I was a karaoke host and DJ for a family business, so I've gotten plenty of chances to perform. As it comes to scare acting and what made me want to do it, what inspired me, is just going to the event.
I've always been interested in haunted houses for a long time. Way before I even did this, I was a fan of Horror Nights. Like way back in 2003 was my first time attending their event as a guest. So I had already had exposure to haunted houses and that kind of industry long before I did it.
It was the 25th anniversary that was coming up for Halloween Horror Nights, and I was like, well, you know what? Why not start on like a milestone, the 25th anniversary? So I auditioned for it, and all the auditions that they have are basically typecast, which just means you walk in, they ask you a simple question on a personality based, and see if you're somebody that actually has a personality and that would work well with the studio. And they just basically look at you and say, okay, this is a person that would fit well for this role.
Back in 2007, I was on Facebook just looking around, and I happened to find a post about an audition for a local haunted house here. And it was just sort of like, hey, we're doing auditions for the opening season. And I just decided, what the heck, just go for it. And the audition was not really an audition. It was sort of like a voluntary haunted house. So we just showed up and basically listened to a meeting and signed up on a sheet, and that was it. And I started my first year of being a scare actor. You can tell it was very low budget. It was like you walked in and they were like, grab some stuff out of a bucket and do your own makeup, and it was that type of like low budget. Very different from Universal's Horror Nights, which is a company ran event. So you have makeup artists, you have assigned costumes, you have everything on a next level that you would expect for something like Universal.
Do you get stuck in the role too much? Do you ever think it would become dangerous? I don't know if you are into method acting, or do you know what I mean? Is that something that you or anyone else has kind of dealt with before?
You can kind of get lost in it because you are so amped and you're so pumped for it. You're on set for 45 minutes, so for 45 minutes straight you have to stay in character. Can it get dangerous with the interaction? It can, because you're also dealing with people that are coming through, and some people have had some alcohols, and some people flare their arms when they get scared. So you have to judge yourself on that.
Some people I have seen, they just treat it like a 9-to-5 job. They just pop out, they're scared, they're done, they clock out. Some people will dive deep into their character and be that character. Sort of like if you ever heard some metal bands, like when they go on stage and they're personifying a character, they're fully into that character as soon as they like step on stage or they put the mask on. It's much like that where, like me, I became a different person. Not like crazy, but it's just once I put that mask on, I try to get deep into whatever it may be. If I'm a zombie, I'm going to go full-fledged zombie until we're backstage. And that's what they do teach you at Horror Nights is once you're clocked in and you are in, like, once you're in the view of the guest, you are on. Like, you are on from the time you step on to off. There's no breaking character. Unless something really graphic or something really crazy happens, you are not allowed to break character.
Wow. That's pretty hard. It's pretty brutal.
Especially when you see children come through and you're like, well, gotta scare you. Or you see a baby. We have seen babies every single year. There's babies.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
So do you feel like coming off stage or off set it's like a major come down in that way, that you're like going so hard for so long? Do you feel exhausted, or you do feel like kind of exhilarated? I don't know.
My suggestion is jump up and down for 45 minutes and then stop. And you're going to be like, okay, I need to sit down, I need to regroup, and then after 45 minutes get back up and jump up and down again for 45 minutes. Now if you added screaming and flaring your arms around and everything, it is really exhausting. Typically in any kind of haunted attraction, the first week or so you see people quit because they don't realize how strenuous it is. Mentally it can be tough, emotionally it can be tough, as well, because you're really putting yourself out there.
Obviously you love horror, and horror people don't really normally get nightmares. That's why we like horror movies. But have you ever got nightmares from like working there?
And maybe beforehand I did. When I didn't work at the event, I probably had a lot of nightmares about the event. I would see the commercials on television and it would drive me like nuts because it would creep me out. But working the event, it pushes you on a different side. Like you see the event differently, where as before you would be terrified, now you kind of trained in your mind like where certain actors are going to pop out. Like you're kind of used to it.
I give nightmares. I don't get.
That's the best answer. A question I assume that you probably get the most is, what is like the greatest scare you've had, or is there one that like stays with you, like that you maybe felt bad about? I don't know. What's the one that you always think about?
I have scared people to the point that they have passed out and hyperventilated. I have scared a woman that she pooped her pants.
Oh my god! So that actually happens.
Oh yeah. There was one lady. It was during the run house where there was a prop of a person getting electrocuted, and she was too busy focused on the prop and seeing this thing thrashing around. But she turned around and we were face to face, and I just yelled at her, and she screamed and grabbed her butt, and then she ran out the room, and I just thought it was like and she grabs her butt and she ran, and I was like. Internally, I'm like, that was great, but again, I'm staying in character, so I start yelling at the other person. Due to, well, you don't know if there's anything on the ground or anything because it's so dark, I had to step out. So I went through my egress, which is just a fake wall that folds back, and I went out, and I went down to my assistant stage manager, and I said, I think I just made a woman poop herself. And she high-fived me and she said, way to go. And I said, it's really bad smell in there right now. And she's like, we'll get some techs. So they stopped, and they had a tech and some op people walk through the house with where the people were walking, just with a flashlight, just to make sure there wasn't anything going on and nothing. It's kind of one of those things where you're like, oh, that was so great. But then it's like, well, I didn't really mean the woman to poop herself. That.
I can tell the story of how I got punched in the nose.
Oh yes, I'd love to hear that. Please carry on.
It was 2010. It was the anniversary house, and I was in a zombie room. Once again, zombie, zombie, zombie. It's always the theme with me. And on this room, there was a hallway, and you essentially had like 3 or 4 zombies, like fake dummy zombies, pinned to the wall. So there was a open spot that you can come and just stand along the wall and people would think you're a dummy. I was standing there, minding my own business, getting just ready to scare, because I can just watch guests walk right by me and pick and choose which one. And all of a sudden, I feel something sort of like a smack or something. And it's like, what just happened? And then next thing I know, I feel something sort of dripping. It's blood. And one of the guys, I guess, just was like, oh, these are dummies.
God.
And just straight up like hit. Yeah. So I had to be like, oh wow, this is weird. I've never had this really happen to me in all my years of doing this. So I had to hop in the line behind him and follow him all through the house to report him at the end.
Wow. See, I thought when you said punch in the face, it'd be someone being scared and like punching you in the face, but they just punch you in the face because you're just standing there? That's insane. Oh, that's awful. It's really interesting for you because you've kind of done so many different roles, like you've gone from the low budget to the higher end. So is there like something that stands out that is good and bad about any of that?
For working for the smaller haunt, the best aspect of it was done on such a small level that you knew everybody in the haunt. So you knew all the people that were in the scene next to you. You knew all the people who worked behind the scenes. You all showed up, you all kind of like greeted and talked right before you went into the haunt together. And what happens at Horror Nights is you have that, but the event is so widespread, you don't know really anybody outside of your haunt area. So like if you're in one area, you might have two other houses that are sharing your backstage area. You only get to talk to those people. You don't get to talk to all the people on the other side of the event. So it can be different as far as a small town thing. It's much like when you watch a horror movie and you see like a lower budget horror movie has more passion into it than you have some of the larger budget movies. And as far as the worst aspect, I think it's just seeing it on a low budget side. That you can see like, wow, this is a really poorly cheap like haunted house. And when you go to Horror Nights, you can see like, there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars just put into one house, and they have like 9 houses. So, but on the flip side of working at Horror Nights, the worst side of that is you don't have a whole lot of room for creativity as far as an actor or scare actor. Unless you're in the streets, you can freely roam in an area and do sort of what you want to do. But if you're in a house, you are limited to only doing like what they tell you. So you're essentially like a robot. They tell you to pop out of this one area, scare, go back, do it over again, and you have to do that every so many seconds, throughout 45 minutes. So you don't get a lot of room to create, this character or to do anything. Whereas the small haunt, I can do whatever I want to do in my room. So I had total free range to do however my character, whatever I wanted to do in that.
I was going to ask you, and I had written this down before I had watched all of your Q&A videos, and I thought that they were all fake chainsaws, but they're real.
They are real chainsaws. There are a couple of rules with chainsaws. So if you're inside a house, whether it's fabricated like a tent area or not, you cannot have a gas-powered chainsaw. It can still be a chainsaw, but you can't have a functional gas-powered chainsaw due to fire codes. So the actors will have a real chainsaw, but they will have a sound trigger of a chainsaw going on. So when you look at somebody coming at you, it is a genuine chainsaw. The chain has been taken off, and the blade itself tends to have like a rubber tipped safety guard. When you're outside, you can have the gas-powered one. So if you're in a scare zone, or like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house that I was in, I was at the very end. So when people were coming out, they thought, oh, that was a good house, and then I would come out with a chainsaw, and it's real. You smell the fumes and everything. It just adds to the scare.
Is there something about scare acting that people don't know?
Probably the one thing that most scare actors and most performers in general feel is that a guest will see them as a thing and not as a person. And that's tough for a scare actor, especially the ladies, because sometimes there are some ladies that are out there, they're trying to scare people, and some people go, oh, that's cute. You know, look at you, little girl, and you're adorable. You know, and they'll take it to heart, and they'll be like, man. And there are also times where, you know, if they're dressed provocative, they'll be like, hey, baby, and they'll just hit on them or something like that. And it's like, okay, you know, we're not here to be groped or, you know, hit on or anything like that.
The monsters, the demons, the zombies, at the end of the day, they are just people. They really put a lot of hours into working this event. Not only the people behind the event who take months and months of setting it up, but all the scare actors who, you know, they work their hardest to give you what you paid for. And I think a lot of people don't think about that.
Do you feel like people don't like appreciate the efforts that go into it, and they think it might be an easier job than it really is?
Definitely. Because the way I've seen guests behave at Horror Nights, and this just could be because Horror Nights sells a great amount of alcohol, you see every year there are just people who come to the event and they will do bad stuff. They will push people, they will, you know, follow behind scare actors. We've had reports numerous years of female actors being groped and different things like that. People come to this event and they just, I don't know, they just lose like a sense of reality. Like they just think, oh, I'm invincible, and it's, you're not invincible. You know, there's cops every like couple feet, and there's security all around the park.
Is there a message that you want to give to people out there who are thinking about going to an haunt or like having their first experience? What would you say to them to encourage them to?
Yeah, if you've never done any of these type of events before, you have to. It's what I would call a horror movie simulator. It's if you ever wanted to know what it's like without actually risking your life, that is what you want to do. You know, you go there, you get a chance to see face-to-face different ghouls, goblins, movie maniacs, monsters, all of that type of stuff, and you're in a safe environment. You might not feel safe, and you shouldn't feel safe. That's the job of a scare actor, is to make sure that you freak out.
Come to the events. A lot of people maybe misconstrued how scary it is. They think, oh God, that is truly terrifying. I'm never going to do that. And what happens every time someone goes? They generally, like 90%, love it, and they come back every single year. I think a lot of people are just so terrified that they don't want to go. But I'm telling you, just go. You really are into a situation that might be scary, but when you leave, it's going to last with you as far as a great memory.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful and it was something kind of fresh and new. I really liked making this video and talking to these guys. They're really cool. Make sure you check out their channels down below. Andrew I. Davis actually has a whole playlist on Q&A for scare acting, so definitely check that out. I'll leave a link to the playlist down below. And obviously Zombie Chris is one of my good friends, and make sure you check out his channel as always. Cool guy, cool personality, and I think he's really, really hilarious. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this. If you liked this style of video, give it a thumbs up. If you found it interesting, give it a thumbs up. If you learned something new, give it a thumbs up. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you guys very soon. Stay spooky. Bye.